Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box here on CNBC. I'm Joe Kernan along with Melissa Lee. Becky Quick is in Omaha this morning. We're an hour away from the Oracle of Omaha's appearance. Warren Buffett will join us live for the final hour of the show. And Becky will have a recap of Berkshire Hathaway's weekend meeting in a moment. Also joining us for the remainder of the show, Senator Kit Bond, who's a member of the Appropriations Committee. He's a plain-spoken gentleman from the Show Me State of Missouri. Am I saying that well?
Got it right,
I say
Joe.
that well, right?
Got it right.
And you actually had some executive experience as governor. So you're not just one of these guys that... how many terms as governor?
2 terms as governor.
So eight years of that running a huge state. And then how long have you been in the Senate?
Well, this will be my 24th year.
24th year in the Senate.
And I'm delighted to have earned the opportunity to be the warm-up act for Warren Buffett. That's amazing. You know, 40 short years serving the state of Missouri, and I get this high honor.
You do. Have you accrued $60 billion in these endeavors or not?
No, a little bit of debt, but no, no savings.
We've had. Where to start, Senator? Before we go.
Kit works better.
Okay, Kit. We had a little incident in Times Square over the weekend, which the Journal writes about, that the getting lucky, which we've gotten a few times recently. Around Christmas, we got a little bit lucky. But that may not be the way to handle this. Maybe preemption or maybe taking a more aggressive offense might be the way to go. Do you agree with that?
Number one, from what we're seeing, it looks like amateur hour. This one was not well done. We don't know yet all the details, but from what we've seen, I think this fellow probably left enough clues. I would not be surprised if they would not have a good suspect today or tomorrow. And then number 2, you'd find out if he is related to any of the terrorist activities. Of course, my main work right now in the Senate is on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and we thought initially that Zazi, who came across country, was acting by himself. Turned out he was part of a major terror enterprise. At this point, as far as I know, we have no signs that he was part of a terror network. Of course, if we knew anything about it, we might not be able to tell you. But we would, at some point, there would be a formal announcement of it if he was part of a terror plot. But they have many, many means of determining whether a particular individual is associated with a terrorist group. Looks like a lone wolf. Right. And unfortunately, we have lone wolves trying these things. The more publicity, the more people get interested in trying it.
If you're the Taliban, why not say, yeah, this was
that was ours.
Yeah.
Unless it's so amateurish that they don't want anything to do with it because they could do better.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
And the big point is we're focusing on, this is last year's threats. The big threat that people are not talking about is cybersecurity.
Absolutely. Cyber Pearl Harbor, I think, in recent hearings is what one director of intelligence said.
I think that's an understatement.
Right. All right, we'll get to that issue.
There's thousands of rigs operating safely in the Gulf, but it only takes one. And you hear numbers, 5,000 barrels a day, 100,000 barrels a day. It's sickening to watch, but is it the cost of doing business when you're in the oil business?
There's no question this is a tragedy. And don't forget, we lost 11 lives. Now, that is the ultimate. Nature and human remediation will begin to take care of the environmental damage. And the environmental damage is significant. But we lost 11 lives. So, number one, they have to figure out what went wrong. They think these blowout protectors should work very quickly to shut down a malfunction or a leak. They didn't do it. They got the little robots out there looking to do it, and they didn't do it. So we need that oil. Just shutting down, I think we're going to have somebody on from Port Fourchon who will say that if they shut down that oil, that's immediate 21-cent gas tax increase. That's the loss of supply will run up gas that much. We've got to have the gas, the oil, but we've got to do it safely, and that's the question. They're making every effort to find out what went wrong and how to make sure it doesn't happen again, which we must demand.
Well, we're going to return to this because I want to know about the political will of the Obama administration towards opening the new areas after this.
Well, he's been steadfast in saying that we've got to find out what went wrong.
Yeah.
We need to know how to fix it, but we've got to have this.
Yeah.
We've got to have the Gulf has, as you mentioned, 3,000 rigs,
Yeah.
and they have the potential, I think, to produce even more of the oil and gas we need to make sure we don't have to rely on imported oil from OPEC, Venezuela, Russia, Iran, and other places that aren't really our friends.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Kit. We've got Continental.
Probably the one question you know you're going to get a lot of, but we've already had people outside. Somebody stopped me on the street and they said, what happens to my frequent flyer miles? Does anything change at all?
It just gets better. We're going to have the largest loyalty program in the world here. And if you're an elite on United or elite on us, you'll be an elite on the combined carrier. There'll be more options to earn miles, more options to redeem miles. This is going to be great for the customer.
I know there's one more question from back at the set there. The Squawkers have a question or two. Joe, is it you?
No, it's Senator Kit Bond. Phil, Senator.
Good morning, gentlemen. Congratulations on the combination.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I know that these difficult times you can get a lot of benefits by combining, but in serving in St. Louis, we know that these airline mergers sometimes require pink slips cut in routes and other things. Are you looking at any elimination of jobs or cutting any routes?
Well, let me speak to that. We're going to continue to serve every community that we currently serve. And in terms of frontline jobs, we don't expect any kind of significant impact on frontline jobs. And because it's going to take a while to operationally merge these carriers, probably through the first half of 2012. And to the extent there are any kind of overlaps at airports, for example, in spoke cities, which should be quite modest, to the extent we can handle that through attrition and retirement voluntary programs. So we really don't expect much at all for the frontline employees.
I've been able to.
And the
excuse me.
No, go ahead, Senator. Go ahead.
I have flown Continental to India and United to East Asia. I think that's a good combination. We'd love to see you in St. Louis, great underserved airport. But the question, I know, Jeff, you're a lawyer. What do you expect from the antitrust? Are there any areas of overlap where you might have some DOJ requirements that you divest operations?
We are very confident that this transaction will pass antitrust muster. We have, as Glenn and I were saying earlier, we have such extraordinarily complementary route networks with very little overlap. No international overlap at all. Very modest domestic overlap with competition that's unfortunately too strong in the overlaps. So we don't expect really any material antitrust concerns at all.
I think, Senator, the important thing is both these companies have right-sized their networks together in the alliance. So we're going to put them together just as they now perfectly fit. And we're going to keep all that's valuable to us today.
Thanks and good
Glenn
luck.
Tilton, who will be the non-executive chairman of the new United Airlines, Jeff Smizek, who will be the CEO for the next couple of years of the new United Airlines, on a big day for these guys, creating the world's largest airline with incredible reach to destinations all over the place. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Phil. Welcome our guest host this morning, Senator Kit Bond, the Republican senator from Missouri. Usually your better half, Linda, is here.
Where is she, by the way?
I think she's decided to sit and judge it from afar. She wants to take the view of most people who are great Squawk Box fans.
In bed.
watching from
up.
With a cup of coffee that I delivered for her. I've told her that she would, if she didn't come, she might get mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm dead when I go
all
back.
the way back in Washington or Missouri, or where, it's not like she's just over in New York and didn't come in here, right?
She is, yeah.
Oh, I know, that's okay. Okay, Senator, we've talked oil, we've talked the terrorist premium, perhaps. What about, you saw the Goldman hearings, you saw the Senate. There is a large target on Wall Street's back at this point, and I don't really feel like we've buried the partisan hatchets in the country recently. Has it gotten even worse?
I think the stimulus bill, the takeover of health care has really drawn some very difficult partisan lines. A lot of people are disturbed about Goldman Sachs. But you know, the amazing thing, with all they're talking about, and everybody's ganging up on Goldman Sachs, but Mr. Blankfein, the head of Goldman Sachs, says they support this bank measure, which right now is an over-regulation. He said the biggest beneficiary of this bank reform will be Wall Street. And I would add Chicago if they keep the derivatives in there. And it's Main Street, those of us who live and support the people who grow the crops and raise the animals and produce the goods and services that keep our country running. We are the ones that are going to get hit. So the Goldman Sachs efforts, the attacks directed at them, may wind up hitting somebody else.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he has to say that they're in favor of and supportive of this bill. They're sort of backed into a corner, and they've got to say that.
Well, under this administration, if you don't say you support them, then you're hauled out and dropped in the Chicago River.
in a word, Boehner said you'd need,
figuratively,
the Republicans would need 40 to retake the House. He says 100 seats are in play. Is that hyperbole?
I have to tell you, when I went to Washington, I didn't understand how the House of Representatives works.
Yeah.
24 years later, I'm convinced I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the mood in the heartland, the mood out in the country, is very strong. Tea parties are just the surface of it. I have never been stopped more by people on the street, shopping centers, in crowds, at sporting events. People who say, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an independent, and we've got to stop piling massive debts on our children and grandchildren's credit cards and having government take over. I think the mood has really shifted.
Well, we went from health care to finance, and the Democrats think they have a winning stance here on Wall Street, and I think they'd like to have everyone forget about health care by November and be focusing on Wall Street.
Don't forget they've taken over student loans. They took over half of the car industry. But their talk about Wall Street, as Mr. Blankfein said, is going to make Wall Street the biggest winner. We need better regulation. And I think
you're walking an interesting line here.
No, I think
as an anti-Wall Street Republican.
Yeah. Well, I am for a good, strong financial system on Wall Street. That provides the money.
Right.
And Goldman Sachs is accused of wanting to make money. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. But, if they violated any laws, if they operated unethically, as Mr. Buffett's second in command, Charlie Munger, said, that's bad. But don't put restrictions on the Main Street Bank, the agricultural lenders, the utilities who service. I want to ask Mr. Buffett about how the derivatives bill would affect some of the utilities which generate the electricity that we as consumers all have to pay.
All right, stay here, Senator.
Next couple days.
Senator.
Chet, Kit Bond, one of the things I saw you quoted on recently was the impact that a shutdown in the oil and gas from your region going through Port Fourchon would have. How much do you expect this could hit the price of gasoline, for example, that we buy around the nation?
Well, I can tell you this. If Port Fourchon was shut down for any length of time, and that's not the case right now, let's understand that. But if we were, we would have about $1 billion of impact per day here with Port Fourchon shut down for a period of time. But as far as the gas is concerned, the price of gas, you know, we're unsure of that, of what effect it's going to have, because you have to understand there's still a lot of drilling and production going on in the Gulf now, so it shouldn't have that large of an impact on the pumps.
Chet, in terms of